I think there's. I just think it's the finances. Unless the NRL wanted to use some of their profits to help finance it, then it's just a sad reality. But it is crap because I wanted it to happen, and I was really hopeful when Elson came in that it would happen.
But if you've got two referees, that means they're both maintaining the anti-Wigan conspiracy. Is it anti-Wigan this week or pro-Wigan? I can't remember.
Right now, the biggest issue is that they all hate Wakefield Trinity.
Oh right, okay, yeah, that's this week's target. Do you think they've got a big spinny board with all the clubs on it, and they just sort of get the wheel? It's what happened to the Wheel of Fortune wheel. That's where it was recycled. It was taken to Redhill, and it's just spun by probably Phil Bentham. It's probably what he does now. He spins it on a Monday morning, and it's right. This week, lads, Steve's going to put the thing in, and this week we're hating on Wakefield.
The Wheel of Misfortune. Would
yeah.
It be? Okay. And finally, Women's Rugby League. We've taken this just lifted from the press release. So Women's Rugby League will be bigger and better than ever in 2019, kicking off with a blockbuster opening Sunday featuring all three domestic leagues on the 7th of April. Wigan Warriors, who were the Women's Super League champions in 2018, will launch their title defence at home to local rivals St Helens, and this game is to be streamed live on the R-League app and website, part of more coverage than ever before for the women's game. Newcomers to Super League Wakefield Trinity will make their 29 debut with a tough trip to face the Challenge Cup holders Leeds Rhinos at Wheatwood, where the Rhinos women play their home games.
And I stayed in the hotel there last year. But that's
recommended.
Very Partridge. Without sounding too Partridge, not particularly.
I mean, I don't think the Wakefield ladies will need to stay in any hotel, so they don't need to worry about that. York City Knights will face the Castleford Tigers in round one. Meanwhile, Bradford will welcome Featherstone Rovers as part of a double header fixture at Odsal, which will also see the Bulls men's side take on Dewsbury Rams in the Championship. As well, so that's good. There's a chance for a big crowd at that game too, so good fixtures to kick off that. And the Women's Championship, the newly created Warrington Wolves will face Barrow, who are playing their first competitive fixture as well, while the Huddersfield Giants, who enter the senior competition for the first time this year after fielding a progressive under-19 side last year, they'll travel to face Widnes Vikings. To round off the opening weekend of the Championship, Alton Raidettes will welcome Lee Miners Rangers, and an all-Yorkshire fixture will see Hull FC take on Stanningley. 9 teams will take part in the 2019 Women's League One. How do we pronounce this?
Well, I want to say Cutsick, but...
Cutsick, it's probably not that. East Leeds, Halifax, Hull KR, Keighley Albion, Rochdale Hornets, West Leeds Eagles Ladies, and they need to think about dropping one of those words from there. Whitley Bay Barbarians and Wigan St Patrick's will be in that League One. In all three leagues, the season will begin on April the 7th and end on September the 29th. The top 4
long
teams...
season.
Yeah, I think it's spread out. They don't all have fixtures every weekend. These are amateurs, let's not forget. The top 4 teams in the Women's Super League and Women's Championship will then enter into the semi-final playoffs, with first playing 4th and second playing 3rd before the Women's Super League Grand Final and Championship Grand Final both take place on Sunday, October the 13th, so the day after the Men's Grand Final, and this double header will be at Emerald Headingley Stadium. Women's League One will follow the same format when they get to their playoffs, but the final venue for that competition is to be announced at a later date. Obviously, that's a fledgling competition at this stage. The Coral Women's Challenge Cup as well we need to talk about. That's going to take place alongside the domestic league competitions. It's expected to be bigger and better in 2019 as more sides enter than ever before. There's a preliminary round before the Championship and Super League sides enter, for example. The women's final will take place as part of a triple header event alongside the Coral Challenge Cup men's semi-finals at the University of Bolton Stadium on Saturday, July the 27th, which is an event that I'm very excited for already.
Yeah, that sounds like brilliant. It's a little bit of a shame, I think, that the grand final was moved away, so it's going to be the other side of it. It's going to be away from the men's final, so it's not going to be on the same day, but it's going to be away, so it doesn't retain people like myself who travel up. I'm more likely to be travelling home rather than go off for another game somewhere.
Nah, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. We'll sort it out. We'll go to both.
It's whether I'm allowed, isn't it?
Bring her. Okay. Thanks to everyone who got in touch on that one. Tom Andrews is holding the record this year so far on news views. There is the Google form that's always available for fan views on the week's news. I was pretty crap this week. I've been very busy working overtime a lot, so I was pretty crap at sharing out that link. I'll make sure I try and do it a bit more this week. Save it in your favourites, and then then you can comment on any news story that takes your fancy as the week goes along. If you comment on it, we'll put it in the rundown. And that is the news from this week in the world of rugby league. We're now going to move on to the Super League match reviews. Okay, Tim, it was round 5 of Super League this week. Do you know, the average attendance, based on the figures I've seen, tipped over 9,000 this week, 9,037. So that means it sits second only behind round 1 in average attendances this week. So I think that kind of adds weight to the positive numbers that the RFL have been, or the Super League have been pushing out there this week about TV figures and attendances minus London and stuff like that. But some of the individual crowds that we'll get to maybe weren't fantastic, but overall it's a positive number. So let's focus on that being a positive number overall and get on to game 1, which was Thursday night's game, and you're going to talk us through the details.
Yes, indeed. It finished Warrington 24, Castleford Tigers 10, and it being 16-4 at half-time in front of 9,231 people, as well as being on the Sky TV cameras, and it was refereed by Mr. Chris Kendall. So in terms of statistics, in terms of the team stats, very strong ball control from Warrington saw them make only 5 errors to Cass's 9. Wyatt made 166 more metres and a very good 1.1 metres per carry better average gain. Wyatt did give away more penalties, 9-6, but will be happy with a better team tackle success rate above their visitors. In terms of the winning Warrington side, Darryl Clark made 40 tackles, 10 from marker and 100 and ran for 137 metres. Stephen Ratchford took a try assist and 118 metres. Jake Mamo or Mumu, as Eddie Hemmings was rotating through at various points, scored. Jake Memo got the message, and scored. Kids these days just won't know what a memo is, will they? Scored 2 tries, took a try assist, and made 5 tackle busts.
Isn't it something that pops up on YouTube videos telling you to harm yourself?
Quite possible. I mean, yeah, I don't know if there are any Cass fans that were self-harming after that performance, but he made 5 tackle busts, ran for 114 metres and made 2 clean breaks. And finally, Super Benny Westwood running for 114 metres. In terms of the losing Cass side, Greg Eden picked up a try, made 5 tackle busts, ran for 112 metres and 2 clean breaks. Jesse Sonny Lafayette made 112 metres with 3 offloads to boot. Liam Watts making 44 tackles, 103 running metres and 3 offloads. And Paul McShane, of course, no stats roundup will be complete without him, making 41 tackles, 12 from marker. We had lots of fan views in this one, as always, for Thursday night. Mark, when he starts off?
Well, we start with Carsten. He said the Tigers' right side defence was non-existent in the first half, and the game the game was decided after 40 minutes. Austin's kick in the second half was the highlight of the game for me, and McShane and Truman hanging on Ben Murdoch-Basila as he still scores.
Yep, Fatboy_Rob, a bit shite from Cass with a bit of bad luck and a lot of shit tackling in the first half. We showed a bit of fight in the second half, where lesser teams would have caved in. It's about as positive as I can be. We are, brackets, still top of the league.
Not anymore, Rob. Army Tiger said Charnley is a cheating grub.
Is he, though?
He had some moments where he was trapping players in, I think, a few times to try and get penalties, and I think on 1 or 2 occasions he did get those penalties. But I would say that there's almost no honest wingers in the game when it comes to that anymore. I've watched Jeremy McGilvery constantly try and con penalties out of that same situation recently. I've seen it from kind of lots of players and wingers seem to be the worst. Although actually at Wigan, I think Sean O'Loughlin's maybe our biggest culprit. But yeah,
he's not on the field long enough for anyone to notice, so it's fine.
It's hard to call it cheating when everyone's doing it in a weird way, even though it is. But if everyone felt it was cheating, all the coaches would stop it from happening. But yeah, I think it's a reasonable point to make that this clamping people in to try and win penalties is becoming a bit of a epidemic now in Super League, and the players need to have a look at themselves about it, Tim.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we have another view from at M9UHL. Like Battle of the Shithouses, I've seen less flapping around from a fish out of water than Warrington trying to buy a penalty. Didn't hear much of Phil Clark ranting about it this week. I'm about to see.
Bless you.
I would love to see some nutcracker music over the Hughes try in the 37th minute as look more like ballet than rugby.
Neil McEwen said, pretty shite game to be honest. As a neutral, I think the ref spoiled it by giving Wyatt every 50-50 decision in the first half, which basically killed off the game.
Not how I viewed it. At Mike Dodd 22, more like the Wire we know and love tonight. Strong performances from Philbin, Ben, Murdoch, Masilla and Westwood. Off the bench turned the game into Wire's favour after a slow start. Hope that Goodwin is okay after that shithouse Watts and his mate Massey tried to bend him in two. Kendall's decisions on what was interference and what wasn't had as much consistency as one of my bowel movements after a curry and a few pints.
That's a good one. Lee Whitnell said, Cass started the better team with their ruck speed and kicking causing us lots of problems. They were worth their lead and should have gone further ahead. Our try, when it came, was against the overall run of play, but after it we targeted Truman and McShane more in attack to sap their energy and took control. Game management at the end was top. Having Ben Curry back was almost as good as Fatboy Rob's pre-match kissing. Almost.
Oh, wow.
What?
There we go.
What's this kissing business? Have they had a bit of a snog, these two?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
On the pie. Anyway, finally on your views on this one, Paul Chamberlain says, a pretty dull and scrappy game. Even the crowd seemed devoid of any atmosphere. At least the result gave both sides a chance to get out of Dodge with respective narratives intact. Warrington can boast a redemptive win against a big rival, whilst Cass can point to injuries, suspensions and a virulent bout of the Morgan Escarate STD sweeping the camp. Apparently it results in extreme jazz hands anywhere near a try line.
Yeah, that Paul McShane drop was...
it was quite one, wasn't it?
It came quite early in the game, didn't it? But it would have had them 2 scores up, wouldn't it, Cass?
Yeah.
So it might have been a different story, but hey ho. Tell us what you made of it, Tim.
I thought it was a decent game to watch overall. I thought that it was interesting that the 2 Mamo tries were the same play. It was both times it was the same play going out wide. One was a bit more of a loopy pass than the other, but it was the same thing. I think Mamo did take his chance well. Obviously, his first chance in the side starting, he did brilliantly really for that. Although he did sound in his interview at the end like a hyperactive chipmunk.
I think he was surprised that they pulled him up to be interviewed, even though he'd had 2 tries, I think a try assist, and an all-around pretty like you say, did well coming in for his first opportunity, taking his chance unlike players at Wigan. Yeah.
Well, you got to take the opportunity. Maggie Philbin did well as well. I thought she, presenting top tomorrow's world, and then also doing very well throughout the game. So, and Deck Patton as well had a good game.
A few people pointed to Philbin and others off the bench. Do you think that was a key factor? Because in the first 20 minutes, Cass were the better side, weren't they? And then it changed around.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look at that bench for Cass, they had Alex Foster, Matt Cook, Agodo, and Jack O'Neill. Or Jake O'Neill.
Jacques.
And then if you contrast it with the Wire bench, it's Murdoch, Masilla, Westwood, Joe Philbin, and Jason Clark. And that's it's worlds away in terms of the 2 benches.
Yeah, power, experience, size. Yeah. So that's and then
I think that's really where they did them, and it was just relentlessness from Morris. It didn't